And what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Designated Players and MLS podcast. We're here with Patrick once again to talk CF Montreal, but this time for their 2024 season. Patrick, welcome back. How are you?
Hey guys, I'm doing great. Thanks a lot for having me on. I feel a little bit, how do you say? I just been taking a look at the other guests you guys been having on, and like actual journalists and podcasters. So I'm honored to be here today. Thanks.
Yeah, it's we're happy to have you. Like I said, we've had you before. You have great insights and really good talking points from just a proper fan perspective. So it's really nice to have you on. And we've got a lot of things to talk about. Lots of late move, big additions, a couple of people out. Some people we're looking that might break out this year. One big question, and then some predicted finishes. But before we do that, we of course have to dive into Scarf of the Week. Patrick, I know you said you don't have anything, but that's okay because it seems
Yeah.
like you're on vacation or something. Montreal looks great this
Yeah, it looks better than the background of my apartment. So let's have some palm trees and some surf. So
Love
it's
it.
where I wish I was right now.
Yeah, don't we all, right?
Yeah.
Connor, what are you rocking?
So surprisingly enough, and I don't know why, I have two Montreal scarves.
What?
Um,
Nice.
I ended up opting for the old school logo. I love that logo. So got the
Yeah.
Montreal Impact team
Never
that
should have changed it.
doesn't team that doesn't exist anymore. But yeah,
Still
I've
call them
got
the Impact though.
yeah.
Um,
And during the editions, actually, like a lot of the South American journalists were still calling us Montreal Impact. So name will never go away.
yeah. I also got my Montreal scarf. There's nothing written on either side, but it does have this really cool thing where it meets in the front on the badge. Oh, I gotta go the other
Oh
way.
yeah, that's cool.
But it also meets in the back and makes. Oh, am I doing this right? Maybe not. Am I
Yeah, the
it?
Fleur de Lis.
Yeah, it
Close.
makes the fleur de lis on the back.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's really cool.
So it's a double meet in the front scarf, which during when I did a little TikTok series on like grading my scarves. Meet in the front was a big criteria for good grades. Double meet in the front, double good. So
Yeah,
big fan of it.
sweet.
Love the look. But
Yeah,
we're
it's a
here to
nice one. I've never seen it before.
yeah. I don't even remember where I got it. I think I got it off of MLS Soccer after we chatted the first time because I was trying to get a scarf for every interview guest that we had,
Okay,
and that's where I think it came from. And I think I just got it off MLSsoccer.com. Really.
nice.
Yeah. But as much as we want to talk about our scarf history, which we can go on forever, we are here to chat 2024 CF Montreal. So Laurent Courtois in his first season after making the move from the very successful Crew 2 and MLS Next Pro. Last season, Montreal finished 10th in the East, 20th overall, 41 points, 12 wins, 17 losses, 5 draws, and they did end up missing the playoffs. What are we thinking about this new coaching hire?
Well, first thing is I think they're going to play a style that's more suited to the players they have on the roster. You know, last year with Lozada, it was of a lot of kick and run, a lot of like direct play, which reminded me of when I first started watching MLS in the early 2000s. That's kind of the style of play he was trying to do, and like so when you have a guy like Sam Piet coming out and saying we don't know what we're supposed to do on the field, the style of play, is not communicated to us. That's a problem, especially coming from a guy like Sam Piet, who's your captain, who's your leader, who's a fan favorite, and who's usually fairly soft spoken. But when he says something like that, there's a definite problem.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but the biggest thing this year, hopefully, they're going to play a style that's more suited to the players they have on the roster.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember reading that, and that's like pro soccer no-go zone right there is speaking out against a brand new coach who's trying to implement things and you keep it in the locker room. You talk about it with your teammates, you talk about it with your family, but taking it to the media that's when things have kind of gone
Well, well,
off the
that was towards the end of the year, though.
right.
I think there's only like 3 or 4 games left in the season, and they were still battling for a playoff spot. I think they may have still been in 8th or 9th place at that point, and they just came off a pretty big loss. I think it was against Atlanta, and Atlanta they were playing structured football. It was clear what they were trying to do, and watching CF Montreal last year, all year, I didn't know what they were trying to do. So it was really frustrating to watch. It was almost unwatchable. That's how bad the style of play was last year, and we weren't creating any chances. and Kyoto was out all year. Then he got injured, went back to Honduras, was kind of partying all the time. You saw all this stuff on Instagram. Olivier Renard, the sporting director, said something, if he wants to go play for Hollywood FC or something like that, he seems suited for that kind of play or for that kind of place, so probably that's probably our biggest loss, Romel Kyoto, but I think we replaced them adequately with Kokoro and Martinez. So I'm really positive about this year. The vibe in the city right now around this team is incredible. I've never seen it like this before. We just sold out our season tickets for the first time in club history. They had these 6-game packages, including the Miami game, and those also sold out, and they were terrible tickets, but people just want to have, they want to be there. So it's really fun, really positive vibe this year. I can't wait. 2 weeks is not coming quick enough.
Tell me about it. But yeah, totally. The selling out the tickets, and I know we're going on a big tangent here. Connor, don't worry, you're going to talk about your breakout player in a second. But
no worries.
That's such a good sign, right? For a club that, had realistically in the last 5 years one really good season. They made the run in Champions League at one point, but really the one good year in 2021 or 2022. I think it was 2022.
Yeah.
But the fans are still behind them, right? And it's the same thing in Cincinnati, for example. I was at Cincinnati when they were terrible. I went and watched the Red Bulls play there. And there, I was packed in like a sardine. They had 4 wins all year, and I was packed in like a sardine. They were, and that is what shows you that we are making good steps in this league. It's fantastic. There have been a lot of really nice additions here so far. Who, in your opinion, do you think is the best one?
Well, it's a good question. Just judging by the little footage we've seen, we got to see the preseason game against Atlanta. It was like a 120-minute game. They played 3 30-minute quarters, and yesterday they had a big loss, 6-2 against Colorado. But Yankov scored in both goals. We didn't really have a real, difference maker number 10 last year, and I think he could be that. Again, a lot remains to be seen. He was playing in the Bulgarian first division, didn't get much playing time last year, but that was probably due to a coaching change and an injury suffered the year before, because he was getting interest from France, but then he got injured and fell out of favor of his coach. So I think he could be a really big piece. And Kokoro is going to be a fan favorite. You already saw him in his first 5 minutes. He went out and laid out somebody with a hip check, which was really funny. And drew a foul. He didn't even get touched. So I think with him and Martinez this year, we're going to be the heels of the Eastern Conference, which is fun because we've always been the nice guys. I want to be a bad guy. It'd be fun, I think.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a play style that I think is suited for somebody, and we've talked about this with other teams so far, that is suited for a team that is trying to climb up the ladder, if you will, in the East. Good signings are nice, but if you're not going to do the hard work in winning the ball back, and you're just going to expect to have the ball for 70% of the game, you're not going to be successful. So to be able to have that sort of play style in your pocket's really nice. Connor, your best addition.
Yeah, so I went down the exact same route. I went with Yankov as well. My original note, when I had first wrote this up, was, feel any Montreal fans, feel free to correct me if you think that if you don't think he's going to end up getting much game time this season. But I'm a big fan of him, and I think he could really flourish here.
You don't pay $2 million to have somebody sit on the bench, so
I don't know. Yeah. Red Bull pulled that out once before. His name is Gonzalo Verón. Sorry, I had to throw that in.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Yankov. I think he really flourished here. As Patrick was saying, his numbers in his career so far haven't been too great. I think he just really hasn't had too many minutes or a chance yet. But I think Montreal could be that spot for him. Not to mention he is the only out and out number 10 listed on Transfer Market. I'm sure other guys can kind of be moved around, but I think that'll probably help if they do decide to play with a number 10. He's probably the favorite for it. I think that he can even play a little bit deeper if they're not playing with a number 10. I think he could be like a number 8, maybe a center mid that's in more of an attacking role. So
Hmm.
I think he's a little bit versatile. I think they can make it work. Like you said, 2 million. They paid for him. I'm sure they're going to find a way to get him on the field.
For sure. It's not even like 2 million is that much, but for CF Montreal, it's a lot, because we got to play Moneyball. We got to spend our money smartly because we're not gonna blow you away with our spending. We're gonna be, at best mid-table as far as roster spend. But last year they had the lowest payroll in the league and just missed out on the playoffs with a style of play that was horrible. So I really think there's going to be an improvement this year with the style of play and filling in some holes. So if they improve on last year, they'll be a playoff team.
Yeah, I'm right in the same boat with y'all. I think Yankov's the guy, and I made this comment last year about Houston. We went and Houston had missed the playoffs for 4 years in a row, 5 years in a row, whatever the thing had been. And the last time that they had a playoff appearance and a legitimate like result in the league, they had a playmaking number 10. Then they got rid of it and they sat back and they tried to play a different style. They never worked. They bring in Amine Basse, and now they're fourth in the East and win the U.S. Open Cup. I mean, it's that big of a change. You already mentioned it earlier, but creating chances was a nightmare last year for you guys. Jordy was such a big part of that. He left, you didn't replace him, and you saw what happened when you didn't replace him. So bringing somebody in who has the ability to create chances like that is going to be such a massive addition, even if he doesn't have the, pedigree. I mean, you think about Daniel Gazdag, for example, who was in the Hungarian league and, was okay in the Hungarian league, maybe good in the Hungarian league, but nobody knew who he was. And now he comes up and he's one of the best number 10s in the league. Yankov can probably fill that role.
Exactly. And I think Philadelphia is the perfect model for us. They don't go out and spend millions and millions of dollars on these players. They do smart recruiting. That's the big thing. And I'm happy you talked about chance creation because Laurent Courtois, that's like his mantra this year. He wants our team to be obsessed with creating chances. Every pass he wants us to make with the idea that could lead, to possibly creating a chance. So it's all about chance creation this year, which is our big problem last year. So I really hope, that's what we see, a more attacking style, a clear style of play. And that's be the biggest thing to fix this year.
Yeah, totally fair. You can't score if you're not creating chances, right? That being said, some of the people who are usually on the end of those creating chances have departed. Who's the biggest loss this year? Who are you going to miss the most?
I mean, I kind of said Romel Kyoto before, but he's been injuring played during his time here. He had his 15-goal season. Even that year, he missed like 8 or 9 games. But I think the biggest loss came last year when Rudy Camacho got traded to Columbus. I mean, we kind of replaced him with Joaquin Sosa over from Bologna. He's a young center back. I think he's only 21 or 22, but already I think he's going to cement his spot in the back three. And then on the depth, we'll have Alvarez, who came in last year on a $1 million transfer, and then Campbell. So obviously, I think our center back depth will be tested this year. But yeah, for sure, Rudy Camacho is the biggest loss.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Not one listed on MLSsoccer.com, but you felt it as soon as he went in, and you saw the ability that he gave in to Columbus on their path to silverware. So definitely a good shout there. Connor, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I kind of went with a little bit of a biased pick here just because I'm a big fan of his. But I went with Aaron Herrera. I was kind of between Aaron Herrera and Kyoto. But as I said, I kind of went for my biased pick here. At his best, I think he's one of the best fullbacks in the league, maybe even the best right back in the league. I think his time in Montreal was a little bit underwhelming, but I think he still has the ability to be one of the best fullbacks in the league. I think Ruan's a good replacement. Considering the team's using like that right wing back kind of role. But if they go 4 in the back, I think the team would be much better fit with an Aaron Herrera than a Ruan.
Yeah, absolutely. I just don't know if we're going to see a four back. I'd like to see it so we could have all of our offensive weapons on the field at the same time, but then you have nobody on the bench. So, but yeah, I'd like to see a back four, but I doubt we're going to see it unless it's a switch mid game, when you're trying to chase a score.
Yeah, I feel like back four would be kind of tough considering you would probably have to play Raheem Edwards at left back and then Ruan at right back, and that might be considering how much those guys attack and get forward. I feel like it might leave the team exposed with just like two guys back to defend
Yeah.
the entire attack.
And plus, this year, Courtois wants our goalkeepers to be involved in the play a lot more. I don't know if you saw any of the highlights against Atlanta, but at some points, the keepers were coming out almost to the center circle and, making a pass to a defender was like 5 feet next to him, which ended up costing a goal. So I'm not really sure what that's about. Maybe he's just trying to get them more comfortable playing the ball to be more involved. But, I really hope this is not, something that happens every game because it's going to cost us a lot of goals.
That's super interesting that you mentioned that. I was doing my C license in Ohio, and the coach was the guy who ran the whole thing was a Division I coach, and he was like, "We're going to do a demo session on playing out of the back, right? We're just going to show you what it looks like, the way we want you to do it." And I'm in goal, right? I'm a goalkeeper. I'll step in goal, and he was coaching me to become a third center back in the buildup.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, "We're going to play out of the back. You're going to knock it into the center back. They're going to give it back to you. You're going to dribble out until somebody engages you, and then you're going to play." Sorry?
Mm-hmm.
You want me to go? You want me to take the ball, dribble it 25 yards out until somebody engages me, then make a pass?
Yeah.
Sorry? I wonder if that's a new thing people are going to start trying. It'd be interesting. I think it's a bit insane, but very, very.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
During his press conference, though, he kind of alluded to that. He said, "I'm going to ask the goalkeepers to do things that they've probably never done before."
That definitely fits into that category for sure.
Yeah.
That even the people around me, I was playing with kids who were, national champions at the D3 level, D1 starters. Like they're looking at me like, what is he telling you to do? But that's just the way it was. I also brought in Romel Kyoto in here because I think he was very, very good when proper service got to him. So, the injury killed him, and you mentioned some of the off the field stuff. Excuse me.
Yeah, he lasted 2 weeks in Iran, right? Yeah. I don't know if you saw that. He went to Iran. He lasted a week or two, and they parted ways.
Oh, did they? I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, I didn't even know that either.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would have loved to see what would have happened now that he's getting playmakers around him again. But I also think he's been perfectly replaced. But those players who are leaving means that the door is going to open up for certain players. Who do you think is that breakout player that we might see next season who we wouldn't be expecting?
Wouldn't be expecting. I'm not going to go that way, but I think the breakout player is probably going to be Opoku. I think he's in for a big season this year. I think he could. I think his best season was 9 goals with LAFC. I think he could get to 10 this year, 10, 11 goals, depending on how much he plays. Because now with Martinez in, this kind of shakes up everything that we thought we were going to see, and I think unfortunately the odd man out is going to be Mason Toy because he's now 4th on the striker depth charts. You have Kokado, Martinez, Sanusi, Vincent all ahead of him. And if you want to consider Opoku as a full-out number 9, then he would be 6th, but I think he's going to play a bit deeper, probably as a false 9. So yeah, definitely Mason Toy is. I think he needs to change the scenery because he's a really nice, intelligent guy, but he's too hard on himself, right? It's all mental for him because he has the talent. He's able to finish. It's just he's in his head too much.
One of the things that's mental is I just looked up and he is 25 years old.
Yeah.
I feel like I've seen this dude in the league for 10 years. I feel like I've seen him play since the day I started watching the league. I mean,
we traded for him when we had Thierry Henry. So he's been here for going on his 5th season. So
that's wild.
That's crazy.
but and that's the thing, right? You can get offload him and get something in there.
Definitely. I think we could get at least $500,000, $600,000 in Tamara Gam or something like that.
Somebody in the league, Toronto should be calling you personally.
Toronto should be calling everybody.
Oh God, Toronto. I'm so happy they've done absolutely nothing.
They're gonna be bad this year.
Oh, you'll be
Oh.
excited to hear the Toronto episode. Andrew
you're-
absolutely dunks on them.
Oh man.
Just skip to the predictions section. You'll like that.
Yeah, and they're really upset that we got Martinez too, because
Oh,
he's
yeah.
a Toronto killer.
Oh yeah, they'll. Any of our CF Montreal fans who are listening, go skip to the predictions in the Toronto episode. I'll become your favorite podcaster.
When you think of it, they've been in the league since 2007.
Mhm.
I think they made the playoffs 4 times. Yes, they won a treble. They've been to 3 MLS Cups, but
Oh
they
yeah,
made the playoffs 4 times in their, I don't know, like 15 to 13 year time in MLS. So
yeah, they're the definition of like super hot and then super not, right? And,
Yeah.
and
They
when
spend
they,
just
when
to
they miss
spend.
the playoffs, they like miss the playoffs. There's no
they're like dead
man, we
last.
almost got there.
Yeah.
They're terrible.
And it's surprising because you think a guy, like Bernadeschi and I forget Insigne, would be able to carry that team, but you can't have 2-3 guys and then have a bunch of plumbers around them. You need that depth. You need a good supporting cast, and they don't have a good supporting cast.
That's fair.
Which is something I like about our team. Last year we didn't replace anything, but we had the supporting cast, and this year I feel like we filled the holes that we needed to fill.
Connor, your breakout player finally. I'm sorry.
No worries, no worries. I'm kind of going with a biased pick here, and
Wow, shocker.
I'm almost second guessing it just because considering how much he played last season, I think he's gonna actually play less this season. But I ended up picking George Campbell. I think George Campbell is a really good center back. I think he's got all the physicals for it. He just needs to kind of figure out the technical part of the game, and then. But I think that Courtois could just be. I think he could be the guy to help him get to that next step. I fully
hope
think.
so.
I think, as Patrick was saying, I think he's on the bench right now with Sosa coming in. But considering they play 3 center backs, there's a really decent chance that he gets a good amount of game time, whether that's because somebody gets hurt or just rotation. But I think when he's going to get minutes this season, he's going to look really good. Like I said, I think really he's got the physicals. I think he just needs to kind of figure out the technical part of the game. And I really like the addition of Courtois. I think he can be the guy to get that technical game out of Campbell. So I'm backing him for a strong year this year.
He's actually hurt right now, so he probably won't start the season. But yeah, I like that a lot because we did see some great flashes from last year. I remember there was one sequence that's really sticks out of my head. I think it was maybe against Orlando where he kind of danced through, their midfield and got a great assist on a goal. You saw, what he can do from time to time, but defensively, he was getting beat a lot. He just wasn't very solid. But maybe again, it goes back to the style of play and with no real clear identity or instructions that the coach was giving us last year, or them, not us, I should say. Keep it professional.
You could say us. That's cool because that's we speak about it in the same way. So you're all good. I'm torn between 2. So I'm gonna use one that I am fairly certain I used last year, and I'm still waiting on it, but I still think he'll qualify, and that's Sanusi Ibrahim. I'm fairly certain that was my pick last year, but I think there's so much potential in him. I saw him torch Red Bull one game, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep an eye on him in case this is him being really good or Red Bull just being Red Bull. And he's got moments where he's so brilliant. And
he's built like a tank.
He's got the athleticism, he's got the speed, he's got, the desire is something that I really like out of him too. He's never quitting on things, he's always fighting for it, but he's missing the last little bits here. And I want to see him get that chance to break out now. It's going to be tougher now that, and you mentioned maybe Mason Toy moves on, but it'll be tougher if, you're going Coccaro and Martinez, but he could get rotation minutes, he could get sub minutes. He was mainly a sub last year, but he started 2 games at the end of last season, and he had a goal, 2 goals and an assist in those 2 games. Now, the ability is there. It's just who's going to give him the chance. And, Laurent Courtois knows how to get the best out of young players. And I think Ibrahim is going to be one of the guys to benefit most from that.
Great. Yeah, I like that as well. And maybe another breakout player I want to talk about maybe is Nathan Saliba. He got a lot of time last year, but I think he's going to take it to another level this year. Hopefully he can put up some numbers because last year, it was zeros across the board. But he already scored in one of the preseason games. You saw his progression last year. He started off the year really slow, and by the end he was pretty much an undisputed starter. So I think we could see big things from him this year, especially since they've identified him as one of the players they want to sell. Excuse me. So he's going to get a lot of chances.
Yeah, so we'll see how it goes, and we'll see how it runs out. But now it's time to move forward here and ask, what is the one question left for this season? What's still on your mind that you're curious about, or one going to watch throughout the season as it develops? What's that one kind of overarching thing?
Well, I'm really interested to see how long it's going to take for the style of play to really be comfortable with the squad, because Victor Wanyama said once everybody's on the same page, we're going to be a really hard team to beat. So I'm really excited to see, how it's going to progress, and if it's going to look anything like it did with when we had Nancy, or is it going to be something a little bit different? So that's what I'm going to be looking out to see if we can see a distinct style of play, which was, again, the biggest thing we didn't see last year. That's what I'm going to be looking for.
Totally fair. I like that a lot, because that's what the new coach needs to implement early and often, right? And I'm actually going to build off of that, because mine is in a very similar state, and that's is the professional level going to be too much for Laurent Courtois to handle? He had so much success at this development level, the third tier, if you will. Pro level is a different game. Results matter, and I know results mattered at MLS Next Pro, but not as much, right? You're caring if at Crew 2, if you lost 30% more games, but you developed 4 more players for the first team that the Crew are constantly churning through, you've had a successful season. Here, that's not how that's going to work. So can he switch his mindset and be focused less on pure development and more on balancing development with success? That's going to be really interesting for me. Connor, what about you?
So I feel like with the new MLS 4.0 movement, and as teams just keep getting more and more loaded, I feel like every team kind of has a star player. And obviously, we were talking about Montreal. They don't really go out and spend 5-10 million to bring in a player. So I think with Montreal, it's kind of a question of waiting to see who breaks out and becomes the star player for them. And when you look at the 2022 team, I feel like going in, you didn't really know who exactly was going to be the star. Like when Jordy Mihailovic came over, like Jordy was a good player, but he certainly wasn't the level that he was hitting at Montreal. I mean, he was getting like 4 or 5 goal contributions at max, and then he goes to Montreal, he's hitting like 15 plus goal contributions. So my question is just going to be, who's going to be the guy to kind of step up and be the star player for Montreal this year? Because as we talked about, nobody costs more than like 2 million to come in. So I feel like the door is open. It could be Yankov, it could be Kokoro, could be Josef Martinez, Opoku. Like, I think there's a number of guys that can become that player for them.
Yeah, I think it might be more of a committee type situation. Obviously, you want a guy that can, create something out of nothing. If Josef Martinez is healthy, I think he could be that guy. But we've seen how he's been the last couple of years. I think he lost a step, but when he's in the box, he's still one of the most lethal strikers in the league. You give him the ball in the box, he's probably going to score. But again, he needs to get service. I'm looking at, again, Dominik Yankov. I think he could be that guy. He's scored in both our preseason games. I don't know if you saw the one against Atlanta, but it was a really nice goal. Big shot by Choinière, like that, big rebound, and he kind of chested it and hit it on the volley after he chested it. So you see the technical ability he has, and he scored again yesterday. Unfortunately, we didn't see any of the highlights, but he can be that guy, but he's still young. So if he does explode, we'll probably only have him for a season or two.
Yeah, I feel like the way Montreal's built is really good for the regular season. I think we'll see that you could see that maybe similar level of success like they had in 2022. I just feel like when it comes to MLS Cup playoffs and you got these one-off games, I feel like that's where teams benefit from one of their guys just being that superstar to
Yeah.
create that chance that you need to win the game, because it's just these one-off moments completely change the entire game and help your team move on in the
Yeah.
cup playoffs.
We haven't had a guy like that since Nacho Piatti. Who
Yeah.
I think, again, this is going back a couple of years, but he was snubbed off the top 100 players in MLS history when, at the time he was arguably the best player in the league for a span of 1 or 2 seasons. So
Yeah, it's
I'd like to see prime Piatti playing on this team right now. I think that would be awesome. But he's old
the
now,
things
so
I would say the things I would do to combine some of the best of the best Red Bulls and see what that team would do, and against other best of the best teams. Oh, that's an episode idea. Connor, write that down.
Yeah. I was just saying, I was like, I could see the gears turning. You're starting to think of a new series right now.
Write that down. All right. Well, as we think of new series, we need to think about the future here. At the end of the season, when decision day is all said and done, where is Montreal finishing in the table, Patrick?
Man, that's a good question. I think if they gel, they could probably finish as high as 5th or 6th. But I expect them to be a playoff team. Just because they just missed out last year playing ugly football with no clear identity. They filled the holes. I think they have a clear identity. So they're going to be a playoff team at the least, or a play-in team at the least. But I could see them, finishing 5th or 6th if everything goes well.
Nice. I like the optimism. Connor, are you gonna bring them down a notch like you usually do?
Hey, that's not true. I'm actually in a similar boat. I think I see them like 7 to 10, so most likely in a playoff spot. I think the only way they don't make the playoffs is if they just can't figure out how to make Courtois' system work. Like if they just can't get it, and then it ends up, they end up just kind of having a falling out with the tactics, just really can't click, can't get it to work. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think I really like the addition of him as a coach. I think he's got really good potential with this team, and just as a head coach in general. The only reason I got them, I think, a little bit lower is just because I think it may take a little bit more time for them to kind of get the system to click.
Fair
And
enough. Fair enough.
That's exactly where I'm in the same boat, right? Montreal has improved in the attack, but I've still got some questions specifically about their defense. I know they brought in some reinforcements, but a lot of them unproven, young, kind of in the mold of Courtois is going to get the most out of them, which I think is probably fair. But I think there's so much talent in the East that not being strong defensively at any point in the season is going to hurt you. And as Connor mentioned, I think it does take a little bit of time for them to gel and figure things out, and for Courtois to kind of make that mental jump from one league to the next. So I've got them between 8 and 11 right now, where play in game or out.
But one thing that I do like about Courtois is that he's kind of went through every level before coming, a top flight head coach. He's worked with academies. He's worked as an assistant. He's done developing. He's worked with the reserve team, and now it's the next step for him. So I think he's going to do a good job, and hopefully he could stick around for more than 2 years, which would be a record for us.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. I think long term, this is a great hire. I think right now it might be a rebuild development type of figure things out year. But in MLS, even those types
I really
of years,
hope not. It seems like we're having that every year.
Yeah, that's fair. But I do think I do think that the difference between past years and this year is that I think this guy can make it work. Like, I don't think Thierry Henry could take a group like this, try and mold them into something that he wants, and then turn it into a long-term project. I don't think Losada could have done that, but I think Courtois can. So,
Hey, remember the last time they had a French manager? It worked out pretty well for them.
Yeah. And then Joey Saputo yelled at him, and that was it.
And then he went and won a title with Columbus.
Yep. Take that. But yeah, so we'll see how it goes. We'll have to see how it develops. But Patrick, I want to thank you so much for joining us yet again on the this is technically your first time on the Designated Players and MLS podcast, our rebrand, but the second time with us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure, guys. Anytime you guys want me on, I'll be more than happy to join you guys.
Awesome. We really appreciate that. We do want to give you some time to plug some links, let people know where to find you.
Perfect. Well, unfortunately, our NHL podcast is on hiatus right now. So it used to be, I mean, that page is still up. It's called the Face Off Hockey Podcast. I think we'll probably be starting that up again at the beginning of next season. We just had, we were trying to figure out some technical issues because it just wasn't looking great. But that's where you could find me. But my main Twitter page where I tweet all things sports related, CF Montreal, Montreal Canadiens, Detroit Lions, Man U. It's at P_Dubs13. So that's where you can find me.
Alrighty. Well, make sure you guys go head over there and show them some love. Tell them we came from us. And if you are new from the CF Montreal side and you liked what we did, make sure you give us a follow as well. We are doing a preview of every team in the league. So 29 interviews for 29 different people. It's been a ton of fun, and you can watch all of them as they either are coming out after this or the ones we've already posted. And then if you want to stick around, we do the same thing that we do last year, but with a little bit better quality. We're going to give you our MLS takes from as they happen, the biggest news breaking stories. We're going to do our MLS history series and talk about what made this league. And then we're also going to play some fun games, some trivia, and do, test your ball knowledge a little bit, keep things light. So if you enjoyed that, make sure you come and join us over here at the Designated Players. We hope you enjoyed it. Patrick, thank you so much again for being here, and we'll see everybody next time on the next episode of the Designated Players and MLS podcast. See ya.